This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for Rob sucking.
Hi, I am Rob, and I am very good at golf.
Get it go.
That's why I went to Tom on Skillest, just to show him what I am capable of. And that's what he had to say about my golf swings.
Hey there, Robert. So first off, thanks for sending these in. It's good to hear from you, and swing is definitely looking better than when I last saw it towards the tail end of last year. So good job with that. If we just clean up a couple of little things here, as good as the swing's starting to look, I think you'll start to see a pretty significant difference. So first thing I noticed, and it's a minor thing, but at the same time it's still important, is it just looks like you're standing a little too close to the golf ball here. So you're just crowding the ball a little bit, not giving yourself enough room essentially. So I would like to see you just back up a touch from the ball. It'll feel like you're kind of reaching just a touch for it. But this will go along with what I'm going to tell you about your grip and the right hand in particular. When we start to look at this from face on, these two things will kind of work hand in hand. So when I jump in front of the camera, I'll show you what I want it to look like. But essentially, as a rough guide, about a fist between the butt of the club and your thigh there would be ideal. So just giving yourself a little bit more room would be number one. But as you start to take this club away, once you actually set up to the ball, there's a little bit more space there, but still just a little close. Now, as you take the club away, the swing is starting to shape up really nice. So this takeaway is looking really good. Club head staying outside the hands, hands working in towards the right hip moving behind you. Really good takeaway. I like this a lot. The only thing that I start to see is at this point here, the club face is starting to get a little open. And I'll come back to it again, and we're going to see it from face on, but that is all to do with the way that your right hand is on the club. Possibly a little bit of left hand. We'll see when we look at it from face on again, but definitely the right hand being too far on top of the club at address, not enough underneath. So in a weak position is getting the club face open on you. And it starts to happen early, even though your takeaway with the way you're taking the club away looks really good. The right hand is just getting the club face a touch open. So then you're going to set this club on a pretty nice plane. Pretty good turn to the top. I love what the lower body is doing. We've got this left arm pretty much matching your shoulder plane in a really nice spot. You got tilt to your hips. So some really good things starting to happen here. But again, because of the way the right hand sits on the club, and we'll look at the left hand as well, that club face is just open at the top of the backswing. So see how it almost matches sort of the line of the shaft. The shaft pretty much hides the club face, and that toe of the golf club is pointing kind of straight down towards the ground. That tells us that that club face is open. And what affects the club face at the top of the bat, the two things that have the biggest influence on that are the grip and the wrist angles. And as we can see, there's a little bit of a cup to the left wrist here, which I'll check to see if that is kind of comes from setup with the way that you're holding it. As I glanced early on, I absolutely saw the right hand. I need to double check the left hand. That could be coming from that, or the wrist could be working into a little extension and cupping at the top, which could be getting the club face a little bit more open. I believe it's going to be as simple as kind of a little tweak to the grip, which would actually get that left wrist a bit more in line with the forearm and get that club face a little bit more kind of in line with that in a stronger position at the top. And then that would have a really nice domino effect for the rest of the golf swing, because what you do in transition as you start your downswing is a compensation for that open club face. So you're actually going to kind of steepen a little bit. You're going to start to throw the club head out away from you, and we'll see this from face on as well, and kind of lose some angle. The club's going to almost sort of cast a little bit, and we can see here it's still very open, so pointing up towards the sky at this point here as you come into delivery, as opposed to where we would want it, where it would be more square, is kind of more matching the spine angle and tilting down towards the ground here. The good news is the shaft is in a really nice spot, pretty much matching the right forearm, very shallow. So as soon as we fix that face and we're able to keep a little bit more angle in the shaft coming down, a little more lag, if you will. And it's not really a question of, I don't want you to feel like you hold on to the angle. It will just happen automatically because of your grip and the changes to the club face. Then all of a sudden you'll be in a really good spot to deliver this club head from. But what has to happen is, as you continue to kind of throw this out and lose angle with the open face, you've got to continue to do that to try and square it up. You actually do a decent job here, but we'll see from face on, what ends up happening is you lose all of your shaft lean, and the shaft is actually pointed back a little bit at impact. So you're losing a lot of speed, a lot of power, compression on the golf ball, good things that come from having some shaft lean with the irons that help the ball go further and fly better. You're kind of compromising all of that because you're having to overcome that open face at the top of the backswing. But as soon as we get that face in a square position, through the grip and a little bit of wrist angle, we'll kind of see from face on exactly how we need to attack that. As I said, you'll have a really nice domino effect of things happening in the downswing that will allow you to return the club to the golf ball with some shaft lean. The ball flight will be a little lower, it's going to go further, because right now you're essentially adding loft to every club that you're hitting, so they're going nowhere near as far as what they should do, especially with your athletic build. So we'll have a really nice domino effect from getting that club face square, and then as you come through, kind of the follow through just looks a little awkward because of the compensations you're having to make on the way down. That'll start to look cleaner and more athletic and more dynamic as we go as well. But shape of the swing is looking really nice. It really is kind of as simple as just giving ourselves a little bit more room at address by backing slightly away and then fixing the grip so that we get that club face nice and square, and that will have a really big impact. Okay, so here we are from face on, and we're actually gonna zoom in on the grip here. And you see how that right hand, and when I get in front of the camera, I'll show you exactly what this looks like so you have a good visual and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that right hand is very much on top of the golf club, to where the V created by the thumb and the forefinger is kind of way over here outside the left shoulder. And it actually, it's so far on top that it hides the left hand. But from what I can see there, I can see that that sort of V on the left hand would be pointed up towards the shoulder as well. So both hands are in quite a weak position on the golf club, which is absolutely what is causing that open face at the top of the backswing. So if we just fix the grip and not worry about anything else, and you just swing it exactly the same to the top, you're going to get that club face really nice and square. And the other thing it's going to allow you to do, and I'll show you this as well, is just be able to have a little bit more set in the wrists at the top of the backswing, which will help you retain some of that angle to the shaft on the way down. So what we want in an ideal world is to get that right hand coming onto the club from more underneath, to where the V of the thumb and the forefinger is more towards this shoulder, and we want the left hand actually more on top, to where the V is kind of over here as well. And if we can get those two V's over towards your right shoulder there instead of outside of the left shoulder, that's going to have a really, really big impact on your entire golf swing and how you're able to hit the ball. So what we'll see from this grip position is, as you take the club away, I'm going to put a line on here from like the right ankle up to the right hip to show you how good your pivot is right now. So again, there's a lot of really good things happening in your golf swing, and that's why we just need to just concentrate on what the club face is doing right now. So you're going to go a little outside of that, and then as you turn back, you'll see that right hip starts to create a little gap there. So the leg work is really, really good right now. So as you do that, you get that left shoulder turned behind the golf ball. That's great. Really good structure to the upper body. Arm structure, really nice. The only thing is, we just see that club face pointing directly at the camera. So again, we know that that is open. What's going to happen is, if we kind of imagine this angle here between the arms and the shaft, we want to retain that coming down for a while. Whereas what's going to happen, because the face is open, you're going to kind of lose that. See how the shaft sort of gets thrown out away from you. We'll zoom back out a little here. So at this point here, we don't really have any angle left in the shaft. It's even by this frame here, the shaft and the left arm are pretty much in line with each other, whereas the shaft should just have a little bit more angle here so that you can carry that angle into the golf ball and have some shaft lean. But you'll see as that continues to get thrown out because the face is open, now by the time you get to impact, you have no shaft lean. That shaft is actually leaning back a little. So we're adding loft, and just compromising how well we're able to strike the golf ball. And then as you come through, again, just kind of doesn't look too dynamic because you're having to make those compensations. That will all change once we get that face square. So once we get the grip fixed and the face square at the top of the backswing, you'll just be able to feel like you have a little more set to the golf club. So a little bit more angle here. We want that shaft on that red line, and then we should be able to, without even thinking about it, retain that so that we have just a little bit more angle. And by the time we get to impact, those hands are going to be leading, shaft is going to be kind of a little bit more back here, and the difference from that is going to be really drastic. So it's the same thing here with the driver, Robert. If we just zoom in again a little bit, we can see that right hand way on top of the golf club to where that V is sort of pointed over here, and the club face just getting open as a result. But again, really nice pivot, hips working very well, shoulder getting turned behind the golf ball. You know, lots of really good things happening here. But because of that open club face, we're going to have to kind of throw that angle away. If we zoom back out, again, by the time we kind of get down to delivery, see how that shaft is pretty much in line with the left arm there, as opposed to having just a little angle to it. And obviously with the driver, we want to hit slightly up. We don't want shaft lean like we do with an iron, but we do want that shaft kind of in line with the hands. And as you can see, by the time you're at impact, the frame that gets captured is just after. That shaft is kind of leaning back a little bit too much. Because of the open face, we're adding loft, we're sort of scooping a little, losing a lot of power and distance and accuracy that way. So it really is just a grip change, giving yourself a little bit more room at address, and then just feeling like as we complete the backswing, because of the way that our hands are going to be on the golf club in the new position, we're able to just get a little bit more set. It's going to be kind of like right wrist bend a little bit more at the top of the backswing, and then we're just going to retain that on the way down so that we can return some shaft lean to the ball, and with driver kind of get that shaft in line with the hands. And yeah, you'll really start to reap the benefits pretty quickly with how good everything else is starting to look.
Okay, Robert, so the first thing that I see from this down the line angle is it looks to me like you're just standing a little too close to the golf ball, kind of crowding the ball, so the hands are a little close here. So we don't kind of have enough space to be able to really stay in our posture and turn through. We're always going to be a little crammed here. So what I want you to do is just feel like you're standing just a little bit further away, so that if you were to make a fist here, there'd be about a fist distance between the butt of the golf club and your belt buckle or your thigh, just to give yourself a little bit more room to be able to sort of come through and make solid contact. That's the first and sort of very minor thing. In terms of the actual swing itself, it's starting to shape up really nicely. So you take the club away, club head is staying outside the hands, club face is getting just a touch open at this point because of the grip. But in terms of what you're doing with the arms and the body, things are looking really nice. You're then going to set this club on a nice plane and get into a pretty good position at the top. Again, as far as structure is concerned, you've got the left arm matching the shoulder plane. The left wrist is in a little bit of extension because of your initial left hand grip. But structurally, we're in a nice spot. The shaft is in a good place. We've got some tilt to the hips. But the trouble is this club face is open at the top of the backswing to where from the down the line view, we kind of can't see too much of the face here. It's almost hidden behind the shaft, and the toe is pointing straight down towards the ground. So as a response to that open club face, what you're going to do is kind of throw the shaft away from you, kind of cast this golf club to try and square things back up. And as you continue to come down and lose this angle and cast even more, by the time you get to impact, the shaft is actually leaning backwards as opposed to having some shaft lean with the iron. So from face on, what that looks like in terms of what you do on the way down is open club face at the top, pointing directly towards the camera, and then you're gonna throw the angle away to try and get this thing squared back up by the time you get to impact. But as you throw everything away, this club wants to lean back behind you, so we're adding loft to the club. We're not able to hit down and compress the golf ball. We're losing a lot of distance and a lot of accuracy that way. So to get this club in a stronger position at the top, where it looks, instead of being hidden by the shaft, it looks a little more like this, where it's pointing a little bit more up towards the sky, so that you can then retain some angle coming down and not have to throw this away to square it. we really need to work on this grip. So right now, your left hand grip, even though it's predominantly hidden by the right hand, we can kind of tell from what we do see that this V created by the thumb and the forefinger is going to be pointing up around the left shoulder. And we also know that by what the left wrist is doing at the top, it's also kind of in that weaker position. And then your right hand is very much on top of the golf club here, to where this V is pointing kind of outside of my shoulder over there. So very weak in terms of what the hands are doing, which has a direct relationship on this club face. So with your grip, if I just take the club away, see how the club face wants to start to rotate open a little bit, and then as I get to the top, it's very much incentivized to get into this open position here. If I tweak my grip, if I make my left hand a bit stronger to where this V is pointing to the right shoulder as a right-handed golfer, and the same with the right hand, so coming more from underneath here instead of quite so on top, if I do that and make the same motion, the club face stays very much more angled down towards the golf ball, and then as I turn to the top, this wrist is more in line with the forearm, and this club face points more towards the sky. That's in a stronger position. So we really need to try and get our grip more neutral like this, to where these V's are pointing to the trail shoulder, the right shoulder, instead of like this over towards the left shoulder. So the best way of doing that is with a molded grip. And I'm traveling right now, so I don't have a full-size one. I just take this US Kids Golf Club with me when I travel because it fits in my bag. But this comes with a molded grip that automatically puts your hands in a really nice position on the golf club. You can get them that go on regular clubs. If you have an old club, you can just get a grip, get it put on at like any of the big box golf stores, and that just puts your hands in a nice position. So I'm not expecting you to make this adjustment right away and just be able to put your hands on the club like this, but the closer we can go from kind of this, the closer we can get to this by sort of tweaking it incrementally, the effect that that's going to have on the golf club and then the rest of your swing is going to be pretty dramatic by the time we get it where we want it. So a molded grip is going to be the best way. The other thing you can do is you can actually get like a clip-on molded grip, so you can put that on your actual clubs for when you hit balls as well, and that clips on, and again that just puts your hands in a more neutral position on the golf club, so that when we make a swing we can get nice and square at the top and come down and maintain an angle in the shaft like this and not have to throw it away and lose all of our shaft lean. The other thing that's going to happen as a result of getting your hands in a bit of a better position on the golf club is as you wind towards the top, because these hands are going to be in a slightly different position, they're going to actually just want to set a little bit more at the top of the backswing. So right now with your grip looking like this, because the right hand is so on top, it's actually difficult to bend it backwards and create some angle in the first place, because it's already in a position where it's sort of making it hard to do that. If the right hand is more underneath, that actually gives us some room to be able to set the wrist and bend that right wrist back. So as you get to the top of the backswing, we're just not quite setting it all the way, and the backswing remains a little short. And obviously the longer the backswing is, the more time we have to create power. So when the right hand comes from a little more underneath like this, instead of like this, we're actually able to then get a little bit of bend to the right wrist at the top, set that golf club, and now we can really maintain that angle, maintain that shaft lean coming in, so we can present the shaft lean to the back of the ball at impact instead of looking like this. So it really is, other than standing just a little bit further away from the golf ball to give yourself a little bit more room, it really is all about the grip for you, Robert. So instead of like this and like this, to where you can't really set that right wrist and then you have to throw the angle out to square it up, we're going to get in here, left hand, thumb and forefinger to right shoulder, so a little bit more over with the left hand and then more under with the right hand, to where that V is also pointing to the right shoulder. And if we can get you there, that's going to get you in a really nice position at the top to then just make a pretty natural downswing, and automatically that's going to retain this angle in the shaft so that you can have more shaft lean at impact and start striking the ball better.